All right, we'll do the chant for Chapter 1. This is a chant featuring both the classical and ecclesiastical pronunciations because they're the same in both pronunciation systems. The present and imperfect and future tense endings. The present tense, ost, mustis und. Ost, mustis und. And the imperfect endings, bambaspat, bamuspatisbant. Bambaspat, bamuspatisbant. And the future endings, bo bispit, bimuspitispunt. Bo bispit, bimuspitispunt. This is Chapter 1, classical pronunciation. Expecto, expectare, expectavi, expectatum. Expecto, expectare, expectavi, expectatum. I expect, to expect, I expect, expected. I expect, to expect, I expect, expected. Orno, ordinare, ordinavi, ordinatum. Orno, ordinare, ordinavi, ordinatum. I equip, to equip, I equipped, equipped. I equip, to equip, I equipped, equipped. I ornament, to ornament, I ornamented, ornamented. I ornament, to ornament, I ornamented, ornamented. I adorn, to adorn, I adorned, adorned. I adorn, to adorn, I adorned, adorned. Oro, orare, oravi, oratum. Oro, orare, oravi, oratum. I pray, to pray, I prayed, prayed. I pray, to pray, I prayed, prayed. I beg, to beg, I begged, begged. I beg, to beg, I begged, begged. I speak, to speak, I spoke, spoken. I speak, to speak, I speak, spoken. Probo, probare, probavi, probatum. Probo, probare, probavi, probatum. I approve, to approve, I approved, approved. I approve, to approve, I approved, approved. Puto, putare, putavi, putatum. Puto, putare, putavi, putatum. I think, to think, I thought, thought. I think, to think, I thought, thought. Extremus, extrema, extremum, outermost, farthest. Extremus, extrema, extremum, outermost, farthest. Mortuus, mortua, mortuum, dead. Mortuus, mortua, mortuum, dead. Posterous, postera, posterum, next. Posterous, postera, posterum, next. Postremus, postrema, prostremum, last. Postremus, postrema, prostremum, last. Vivus, viva, vivum, living. Vivus, viva, vivum, living.
Well, greetings, hello again, or should I say salve or salve, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation. I'm Christopher Perrin, and I'm really glad that you're here to travel with me as we go through a second book of Latin, Latin for Children, Primer B. Now, if you've gone through Primer A, and I think many of you have, you know that you have already learned about 240 very high-frequency Latin words. High frequency means words that occur an awful lot in Latin. And those are the kinds of words that you really want to learn first, the words you use almost all the time. You may notice that in English, there are some words that we use all of the time, especially like prepositions like in or of or about. I walked into the room. I walked out of the room. Those are prepositions. We use prepositions an awful lot, so we want to learn the prepositions. There are certain kinds of verbs that we use a lot too, like see and say and walk and think and so on. So the words that we use a lot are the words that we want to master first whenever we're learning a new language. So as you're learning Latin, guess what? We're going to introduce you here in Book B, Primer B, to another roughly 240 high-frequency Latin words. And they're words that I think are really interesting and cool, not just because they help you to understand and read Latin, but because so many English words come from the Latin words that you're going to learn. So, welcome to Primer B, where we're going to be studying a lot of new, great Latin words. But not only that, we're going to understand more about how the Latin language works. For example, you have already learned the first two noun declensions. The first declension, second declension. We'll review those here as we get started. But guess what? You're going to be learning another declension, the third declension nouns, another family of nouns. That's pretty neat. And guess what? You have learned 2 verb conjugations, families of verbs. The first conjugation and the second conjugation, which we'll review here as we get started in the first few chapters. But you will also be learning the third conjugation, another family of verbs. So learning these new noun families or declensions and these new verb families or conjugations will also increase your ability to read and understand Latin and even to speak it. So, welcome. I'm really glad to have you back for Primer B. We're also going to be following the story of Marcus and Julia, or Julia, if we pronounce it in Latin, because J's or I's as a consonant at the beginning of a word would be Julia, not Julia, but you'll hear me say it both ways. Because why? Because Julia is a word that we use in English, and it's a nice sounding word, but it comes from a Latin word, a Latin name, Julia. Marcus, of course we get Mark from Marcus, but even Marcus exists in English, doesn't it? At any rate, Marcus and Julia will be traveling with us on a pretty interesting adventure. We've placed them in the Middle Ages, and they're on a journey. And in this first chapter, you find them on a ship when a big storm hits. And you'll have to read about what happens, but it does involve a good bit of aqua. Aqua, of course, means water. And unda, you might remember if you've taken Primer A, unda means wave. There's a lot of undai or unde, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, which means waves. I'll just spell that out for you to remind you of unda, unde, or unda, undai. That's the classical pronunciation. You might remember that the AE, pronounced as a diphthong, when we pronounce that using the classical pronunciation, the AE combination is pronounced I. But if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, you pronounce it A. So there is aqua, there is, that's water, or and if I want to say waters, I would say aquae or aquae. And there are waves, undai or unde. I think that Julia might really prefer to be on terra, to be on some land rather than on the sea. At any rate, the story will feature some Latin words as well as a lot of English. Let's begin, shall we, by taking a look at our verb tense endings. Now, you have already studied this. You know that verbs in Latin have endings, and those endings tell us some important things about the verb. They tell us actually 3 things, 1, 2, and 3. They tell us what person is doing the action of the verb. They tell us how many people are doing the action of the verb. We either have singular or plural, and that means we're talking about number. So verbs have person, number. And do you know what the T stands for? Do you remember what the T stands for? The T stands for tense, and tense means time. Tense. That's kind of, it's making me think of a movie called The Music Man, where there's one particular song where one of the stars in the show is coming to a town called River City, and people are starting to play pool, and he thinks that pool, that's billiards, is a problem. So he says, oh, we got trouble. Oh, we got trouble. Trouble that starts with T, which rhymes with P, which stands for pool. Well, in this case, T stands for tense, which means time. Tense equals time. So verbs have PNT, person, number, and tense. And the endings, the verb tense endings, tell us what person is doing the action. And we'll see in a moment that it's either the first, second, or third person. Do you remember that? Well, if it's a little foggy, don't worry. It could be, I will remind you what it means. So P, the endings tell us what person is doing the action of the verb. And at the end, it tells us whether it's 1 or 2 or more people who are doing the action of the verb. Like I would be 1 person, but we would be 2 or more persons doing the action of the verb. So if I say I think, that's just 1 person. But if I say we think, that's 2 or more people. We're talking about number now. How many people are doing the action of the verb? And then tense, is it happening in the present, in the past, or the future? I think would be in the present. I think. I thought would be in the past. I will think would be in the future. Do you remember that? Well, let's go over the verb endings. And if you have forgotten or can't quite remember with clarity, the sun is going to shine and the clouds are going to part, and you will see with crystalline clarity what the verb endings are and what they mean. In the present tense, there's our P, indicating that we're speaking about the present tense. I, we often will abbreviate this when we're labeling verbs. You'll see this later with a I, and then F, of course, could stand for future. But this all is referring to tense. Present tense, imperfect tense, and future tense. The imperfect is a form of the past tense, something that happens in the past. And the future, of course, is in the future. Well, we have OST, muss, tis, und in the present tense. The dash is representative of the verb stem, and we'll be reviewing that. Don't have to be concerned about that at the moment. But here are the endings that we put on a verb if we want it to occur in the present tense. OST, muss, tis, und. OST, muss, tis, und. Chanting that will be helpful to remember it, for remembering it. Then we have in the imperfect, and I'll just make a little outline of the imperfect box here. We have these endings. Bambaspat, bamuspatispat. Again, sing, chant this to make sure you have memorized it and lodged it into your deep, permanent memory. Bambaspat, bamuspatispat. Or come up with your own tune or chant, but make sure you have got this memorized. And then our future endings are also similar in sound because they start with a B. Bo bispit, bimus bitis Bo bispit, bimus bitis Those are the endings for the present tense, imperfect tense, and future tense. Now, we've said that verbs have person, number, and tense, P, N, and T. We've looked at the fact that this is representing our tenses, our three tenses. What about person? Well, notice that we have a row here for the first person, second person, and third person. And what about number? Well, let me change colors. Notice that we have a column here for the singular and a column here for the plural. So we have number here, we have person here, and we have tense here. Person, number, and tense represented in this chart. Well, you might be thinking, yeah, but how does this all function? Well, I think you've got the present, imperfect, and future down. You know how this works. When you want to do something in the present tense, you know that means it's happening right now. So I think, I will think would be in the future. I thought or I was thinking, that would be in the past. That would be the imperfect. Well, we'll look at that again in a moment, but I think you've got that. Let's talk about person for a moment. What does it mean for the verbs to be labeled with the first, second, or third person? Well, here's what it means. It means that there's only so many people who could be doing the action of a verb. Let's keep thinking about our verb thinking, which happens to come from our list today. Puto means I think. Puto, I think. At least I think it means I think. Well, I'm pretty sure puto means I think in Latin. Well, how many people can be doing thinking? Well, when we go through all the people who could be doing thinking, we come up with three different kinds of people. The first person would be I. I can think. I'm thinking right now about thinking. I'm thinking about how to teach you how I can think in the first person. I'm thinking, and you're thinking too. I hope you're thinking. So I can be one of the people who think. That would be the first person. I. But you can think too. So when I'm referring to you thinking, I'm referring to another person besides myself. We'll call that person the second person, you think. But what about someone who's not with us right now, like Marcus, who's in the other room? I know he's thinking because he's doing his Latin homework. So Marcus thinks. Well, he's another person who can think. We'll call him the third person, the person who's not right here with us. See, if I can speak to you, if you're right here with me, I'll call that you would be the second person, and of course I will be the first person. So those are three different kinds of people who can do thinking. There really aren't any others. I can't think of a fourth kind of person who would be in some other dimension who thinks. It's either I who thinks, you who thinks, or he, she, or it who thinks, someone who is farther away from us, who we can talk about but not talk to. Ah, but what about this part of the chart? You see, I've been talking about just singular people. This is in the singular. Just one person doing the thinking, the one person who is an I, one person who is a you, or one person who is a he, in this case Marcus, or it could be she, it could be Julia, or it could even be a dog, and it could be thinking, if dogs can think. Do you think dogs can think? I think dogs can think, but I don't think they think as well as we think. Well, let's leave that for another discussion. Well, we've been talking about singular persons doing thinking. What about in the plural? Well, notice if I combine, if I'm with Julia, Julia and I are together thinking about a Latin sentence that we're trying to translate, we think. So this is still first person, but since I've added two, we might say it's first persons, but we still call it first person plural. We think, because we have two people now. And if I want to say, Mark, the two people that I'm speaking to are right here with me. You two guys who are watching this video, you are thinking right now. You think right now. That would be you plural. See, in English, you can mean just one person, like you, one person. Or if it's several people, it'd be you as well. We still use the same word, except down south. It's very helpful in the south. They say y'all, you all, or you guys up here in the north. You guys think. That's the plural you. Two of you think. And then finally, what about some people who are not with us? They would still be the third person, but if it's two of them, we would say they think. Let's say Marcus and Julia were in another room thinking about the Latin sentence they're translating. They think. So that's how person works in Latin. We have first person, second person, third person, singular, and plural. And the endings tell us what's going on in each case. So we have number, person, and tense. Well, if that's still a little bit foggy to you, we're going to keep going and reviewing it in some new ways, not only in this chapter, but in the next chapter and the chapter after that. So if you're still a little foggy, don't worry. It's going to get clearer as we go, as we keep looking at this, maybe from different angles. In fact, what we're going to do now, as another way of helping to understand how this works, is we're going to take the verb puto, putare, putavi, putatum, or if I'm using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, I would say puto, putare, putavi, making that V a hard V, putatum. I think, to think, I thought, thought. Let's conjugate this verb and put it in its various forms. Be very easy to do. First of all, we want it to be in the present tense, so I'll just make this present tense. I'll choose the present tense. That means I'm going to use these endings. And I'm going to find my stem, what I do is I go to the second form, which is the infinitive, this particular second form, which means to think. And guess what I do? Do you remember? I just cross out the RE, and it leaves my stem, puta. So I'm going to put puta everywhere. Puta, puta, puta. I'm trying to say that U with making it a short U. Puta, not puta, but puta, puta. Put puta, puta, puta. It's hard to do. Put, pata, pata, pato, 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 patare, putawi, patatum. I should really be pronouncing that U as a short U. So, pata, 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 pata. Now all I need to do is add my endings, right? So I'm going to add O-S-T, mustis und. So I add O-S-T, mustis und. And now I've just conjugated this verb. One thing has to change, however. In the first person singular, the O swallows up the A. So this A will just get swallowed up by the O. And that happens almost all the time, making this puto rather than putao. And the reason that happens is because we think the Romans didn't like to have to say a-o. They just wanted to have one vowel sound at the end. So puto, putus, putat, putamos, putatus, putat. Putat. Boy, I want to make that U. I want to make that U long. So this would be first, second, third person, singular, first, second, third person, plural. How would we translate these? Well, I'll use orange for this. Pato, I think. Putas, you think. Putat, he, she, or it thinks. Putamos, we think. Putatis, can you tell what's coming next? You all think. You plural, or you all think. And how about putant? Putant, they think. We have just conjugated this verb in the present tense, showing all its forms and how it's translated. That wasn't too hard. Now, if we wanted to do this not in the present tense, but if we wanted to do this in the future tense, say, let's cross this off and make it future. What endings would I need to put on here? Well, instead of these present endings, I need to choose bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bot. So I would keep, the A would actually stay in this case. And then I would just put these endings in. I would put bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. And then I would have putable, putas, putat, putabit. Whoop, let's try that again. I know I should have used a different color. But if you, in fact, I will just circle them with orange. Bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. Now we would have putabo, putabis, putabit, putabimus, putabitis, putabunt. And that would turn it all into the future. So this would have to become I will think, you will think, he, she, or it will think, we will think, you all will think, they will think. So you can see how we can just attach different endings to the stem and get a new conjugation. We could do the same thing with bam, bas, bat, bamos, batis, bant, puta bam, puta bas, puta bat, puta bamos, puta batis, puta bant. And then we would have I was thinking, you were thinking, he, she, or it was thinking, we were thinking, puta bamos, you all were thinking, they were thinking. Okay, that's how it works. And we will continue to show you and remind you how we conjugate verbs and how we show the person, number, and tense by attaching these verb endings to a verb stem. The only thing that's left to do in this chapter is to take a look at our vocabulary. The vocabulary list is quite good. Here we have oro, orare, orave, oratum. I prayed, to pray, I prayed, prayed. Or using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, oro, orare, oravi, oratum. I prayed, to pray, I prayed, prayed. We have orno, ornare, ornavi, or ornavi, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, ornatum. I equip, to equip, I equipped, equipped. We have expecto, expectare, expecto, expectare, expectavi, or expectavi, using the ecclesiastical pronunciation. Expectatum, I expect, to expect, I expect, expected. We have puto, putare, putavi, putatum, or puto, putare, putavi, putatum. I think, to think, I thought. You know that one well. We have probo, probare, probavi, or probavi, using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, probatum. I approve, to approve, I approved, approved. We have vivus, viva, vivum, living, or vivus, viva, vivum, living. We have mortuus, mortua, mortuum, dead. We have posterous, postera, posterum, next, and postremus, postrema, prostremum, last, and extremus, extrema, extremum, outermost. Now, these are new vocabulary words for you. You probably already can see and hear English words in these Latin words. For example, from oro, orare, we get orator and oration. An orator is someone who gives speeches or makes an oration, which is a speech. We have orno, onare, which means to equip, and from this we get ornament, because an ornament is a kind of equipping of something to make it, to decorate it. And that's actually one way that sometimes orno is translated. It can mean to equip, like you equip a ship, but also it can mean to equip like a Christmas tree with something that looks nice. From expecto, we get I expect, and this is clear. We would expect that we would get the word expect from expecto, expectare. It literally comes from this word specto, which means I look, and ex, which means out. It means when you're looking out for something, you're awaiting or expecting something. And from puto potare, well, if we add this word cum, in Latin it would be cum, which can mean with. In English it becomes com. To think with, well, that's what a computer is for. We think with a computer, you might say. To compute is a way of doing calculations and a kind of, therefore, thinking. So you can see right here in puter, comes from puto, to think. Do computers really think? That's an interesting question. Probo, probare, probavi, or probavi, probatum, I approve, to approve. We get the word approve. We can see it's kind of right in there. There's some other derivatives that come from this that you can see in chapter 5. And then from vivus or vivus, we get vivid and revive, which means to make alive again. Have you been revived? If you go to a revival, we want to be alive again. Mortuus, of course, means dead. A derivative would be a related word mortal, and immortal means not capable of dying. Posterous, this word posterity means everybody that comes after you. The children that I have and their grandchildren and their children, all of that going into the future, we sometimes call posterity. I will leave all of my diaries for my posterity, and they won't be terribly interesting to read. And then really there's not much, no derivatives that we've listed for postremus, but from extremus we get extreme. So if it's extremely cold, or if you've taken something to the extreme, you've gone as far out, you've gone to the outermost place. I went to the extreme edge of Antarctica where it was extremely cold. But that's just not true. And then some review vocabulary. Aqua, aquae, or aqua, aquae, water. Fabula, fabulae, or fabula, fabulae, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, story. Porta, portae, or porta, porte, gate. Silva, silvae, or silva, silvae, using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, forest. Terra, terrae, or terra, terrae, earth. And look at the English words we get from this. From aqua, we get aquatic. Aquatic creatures live in the water. Fabula, from the word fabula, we get the word fable and fabulous. If something is fabulous, you might as well tell a story about it. Turn it into a fable. Fabulous means story-like, and it means good in English. Porta, we get portal, port, like a ship goes into a port. And we get airport, and we get all kinds of port words, which you can see in chapter 5. And from Silva or Silva, we get Pennsylvania. Penn's woods. William Penn got the charter for starting the colony of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania means the woods of Penn, Pennsylvania. And from terra, we get terrain. If you've ever had to travel over rough terrain, that just means that the land is pretty rough. A smooth terrain would mean be very easy to walk on. But terrain has to do with the quality of the land. All right. Well, we've done a pretty good job of reviewing the verb endings that we have learned previously for the present tense, the imperfect tense, and future tense. We have reviewed how person works. We've reminded ourselves of person, number, and tense, and reviewed person, number, and tense. Verbs have T and T, person, number, and tense. And tense, the T in tense stands for time. What time did the verb take place in? Does the action of the verb take place in? That's a pretty good start by way of review. I hope you will enjoy the story that you're going to read and enjoy these new words and all of the great derivatives that come from them. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next time for Chapter 2. Wale or vale, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation.